The silent lie that secretly controls modern life. What if I told you that you're not actually making most of your decisions? That the thoughts you think are yours are only echoes of something older, quieter, and far more deceptive. Before you click away or roll your eyes, just pause. Look around. Everyone you know is performing a version of life they've never questioned. We all are. We wake up, follow routines, chase goals, post updates, compete, consume, compare. But behind all of this motion, behind the grind, the hustle, the lifestyle, there's something unspoken guiding the show. And the scariest part? It's not loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't force. It whispers. It blends in. It's the silent lie that secretly controls modern life. This video is not about conspiracy, but it's not about politics or algorithms or secret societies. It's about something much deeper and more disturbing. It's about the invisible framework we all live inside, so invisible we rarely see it. And yet, it shapes every thought we have about success, love, time, happiness, and even purpose. It's the unchallenged assumption that what we do daily is inherently meaningful just because everyone else is doing it too. But what if we're wrong? What if the very structure we consider normal life is a carefully evolved illusion that benefits systems, not souls?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you asked yourself why you're doing what you're doing? Not just career, but everything. Why do you check your phone first thing in the morning? Why do you crave validation from strangers online? Why do you feel behind when you see someone else succeed? And why do we feel like time is slipping away, even when we're constantly busy? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us have outsourced the design of our lives to a silent architect. And that architect is culture, but not culture like art or music. Culture as in the unspoken operating system that tells us what matters. But we didn't choose it, we inherited it. And it's been programming us since birth. It tells you that success looks like money, that love looks like romance, that intelligence looks like degrees, and that freedom looks like consumption. But we rarely pause to ask, who benefits when I believe this? You see, the silent lie isn't a single sentence. It's a web of subtle messages designed to make you feel like you're never enough so that you'll keep chasing things outside yourself. It's the illusion that fulfillment lies just one achievement away, one raise, one like, one relationship, one more thing. But fulfillment keeps moving the finish line. And so we stay hungry, addicted, distracted, always scrolling, always comparing. The philosopher Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." That quote slaps harder today than ever before, because we've become excellent at adapting to dysfunction. We romanticize burnout, we idolize productivity. We call anxiety ambition and numbness maturity. We wear stress like a badge of honor. But deep down, there's a quiet voice in all of us whispering that something is off, that maybe, just maybe, the game we're playing isn't worth it. And here's where it gets wild. Even when we feel that something is wrong, the system gives us prepackaged solutions that keep us in the same cycle. Feeling anxious? Buy a candle. Feeling lost? Take a weekend trip. Feeling disconnected? Post about it. We're given surface-level remedies for soul-level problems. And because everyone else around us is doing the same thing, it feels normal. But normal isn't the same as true. A lie can be normal too. Let's go deeper. Think about attention. Your attention is the most valuable resource you have. Not money, not time. Attention. Where it goes, your life follows. And yet, modern life is designed to hijack your attention at every turn. Social media, news, entertainment, it's not just content, it's a competition for your consciousness. And the more distracted you are, the less time you have to ask real questions. Questions like, what am I actually here to do? Who am I when no one is watching? What would my life look like if I stopped performing and started being? The silent lie thrives on distraction. It needs you busy enough to not notice. It needs you entertained enough to not rebel. And it needs you insecure enough to keep chasing external validation. But here's the twist. The lie isn't anyone's fault. No villain is pulling the strings. It evolved with us. In some ways, it's a survival mechanism. But survival isn't the same as truth. And if we don't consciously examine the frameworks we live inside, we'll confuse what's common with what's right. So I want to challenge you right now. Name one core belief you hold about life that you've never questioned. Go ahead. Think about it. Is it the belief that you need to be successful to be loved? That your worth comes from your output? That you always need to be doing something to be valuable? Where did that belief come from? Who profits from you believing it? Here's a crazy idea. What if the most radical thing you can do in modern life is slow down? Not just physically, but mentally. Pause. To observe. To ask questions no one around you is asking. Because the moment you begin to question the silent lie, even gently, you start to reclaim something sacred, your agency, your awareness, your soul. But don't expect applause. When you stop playing the game, the players still inside will question you. They'll say you've changed, that you're being unrealistic, that you're overthinking. But maybe, just maybe, thinking deeply is the most rebellious act left in a world obsessed with speed. So here's the final question for this part. What if the life you're trying so hard to build was never yours to begin with? The manufactured self, how modern culture creates you before you ever get to choose, before you ever chose your favorite color, your go-to outfits, your ambitions, or even your fears. Culture made a version of you for you. That version didn't emerge from deep introspection or divine insight. It was constructed, piece by piece, by the world around you. From the moment you were born, you were handed a mirror. But that mirror didn't reflect your essence. It reflected expectations. Your parents, your teachers, your peers, the media. They didn't give you space to discover yourself. They gave you a script. They handed you a role in a play that had already been running for centuries. And here's the terrifying part. Most of us perform that role so well, we forget it's a performance. Let's zoom in. Think about how early the shaping begins. Before you even understand language, you absorb tone, energy, approval, and disapproval. A smile for being quiet, a frown for crying, a reward for obedience. Slowly, your nervous system learns a lesson. There's a version of me that gets loved, and there's a version that gets punished. So you adapt. You become the lovable version, the polite version, the successful version. And layer by layer, the authentic self gets buried under performance. We call this growing up. But philosophically, It's more like domestication. You learn not to upset the tribe. You learn to be digestible. And in the process, something raw, wild, and real inside you gets caged. The lie gets more sophisticated as you grow older. In adolescence, you're taught to pick an identity, but not from scratch, only from the menu culture provides. Are you the smart one? The athletic one? The funny one? The rebel? The overachiever? The quiet one? None of these are you. They're masks. And yet, we cling to them desperately because the alternative, being undefined, terrifies us. Why? Because we've been conditioned to believe that being something is more important than being whole. Here's the deeper issue. Culture doesn't want you to be whole. Wholeness is unpredictable. It can't be sold to, targeted, or manipulated easily. But fragmented identities, those are easy to control. When you're insecure, you buy more. When you're uncertain, you work harder to prove yourself. When you're afraid of being nobody, you'll do anything to be somebody, even if it means betraying your own soul. Let's be honest, how much of your life is truly yours? The way you dress, the way you speak, the things you chase, the things you fear, your definition of success, your idea of love. Have you ever asked where those ideas came from? Or have you just inherited them like hand-me-down clothes that never quite fit, but you wear anyway because everyone else is? This isn't about blame. Your parents did the best they could. So did their parents, and so on. The system is ancient, but the tragedy is that in modern life, we've confused customization with authenticity. We think choosing between brands is freedom. We think curating an aesthetic is identity. We think posting a caption is self-expression. But real selfhood isn't curated, it's discovered. And discovery requires silence, solitude, and the courage to sit with the discomfort of not knowing who you are without the noise. Let me ask you something unnervingly simple. If every external influence disappeared, no social media, no advertising, no peer pressure, what would you still want? What would you still value? What would remain of you if the world stopped telling you what to be? Most people never find out. They spend their entire lives climbing ladders that were placed in front of them without question. They wake up at midlife, successful by the world's standards, but hollow inside. And then they panic. Because the silent lie doesn't just control your youth, it hijacks your entire timeline. It makes you believe that one day you'll feel whole when the money comes, when the partner arrives, when the followers grow. But that day never comes. Because you can't find yourself in a blueprint designed by others. Philosophers like Kierkegaard warned us of this. He said the greatest tragedy is not that people suffer, but that they never become themselves. They live and die as copies, never originals. They trade authenticity for approval, and in doing so, lose the very thing that makes life worth living, the ability to live as yourself. So here's the invitation: not to reject the world, but to interrogate it, to become a careful curator of what you let shape you, to stop being a passive consumer of identity and become an active participant in your becoming. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. But it's also the most liberating thing you'll ever do. Because once you peel back the layers of who you were told to be, you begin to meet someone extraordinary yourself. Not the version that fits neatly into a box, but the version that's messy, complex, contradictory and real. And that version, that's the version that can't be controlled. The economy of insecurity, why you're kept chasing what you'll never catch. Let's talk about the engine that powers the entire structure, the system that fuels the silent lie, sustains the manufactured self, and keeps you locked in a loop you didn't choose. Insecurity. Not the loud, obvious kind. Not the kind that makes you cry in front of a mirror. I'm talking about the subtle, ambient insecurity that hums beneath every interaction, every purchase, every goal. The one that makes you feel like you're always a few steps behind, no matter how far you've come. That feeling isn't accidental. It's engineered. It's profitable. And it's the invisible heartbeat of modern life. You see, we live in an economy that doesn't just run on money, it runs on your self-doubt. Every ad you see, every before and after transformation, every influencer's carefully curated lifestyle exists to remind you of what you lack. You're not fit enough, smart enough, rich enough, interesting enough, spiritual enough, productive enough, or even relaxed enough. Ironically, you're not even happy enough. So what's the solution? Buy more, upgrade, optimize, hustle harder, meditate better, manifest stronger. It's a treadmill disguised as a staircase. And the cruelest part, the more you chase, the further the destination moves. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you felt like you had arrived? Like you'd finally made it? Like you were enough? And if you did feel that for a moment, how long did it last before the next wave of inadequacy crept in? That's not a flaw in your mindset. That's by design. Because if you ever truly felt enough, the entire machinery of consumer capitalism would crash. Confidence doesn't sell. Contentment doesn't scale. A secure person isn't predictable, and a fulfilled person doesn't need to prove anything. Let's go deeper. Even our self-improvement culture, the books, the podcasts, the courses, the gurus can be hijacked by the same lie. It tells you that you're broken and need fixing, that your current self is a temporary embarrassment waiting to be upgraded. So you chase healing like a race. You chase enlightenment like a trophy. You meditate not to know yourself, but to become more productive. You journal not to feel, but to perform emotional hygiene. Even your inner work becomes a competition. And slowly, the tools that were meant to liberate you become more chains. Why does this happen? Because insecurity is the easiest way to control a population. A confident, grounded, self-aware person is dangerous because they're not easy to manipulate. But they don't need to keep up. They don't need to prove themselves. They don't need the next big thing to feel whole. So the system works overtime to make sure you never feel that kind of peace for long. It whispers, "You're almost there." And just when you reach the goal, it raises the bar. New trends, new standards, new metrics for worthiness. Let's pause here and ask something radical. What if you stop trying to improve yourself? Not in a nihilistic, give up kind of way, but in a deeply revolutionary way. What if you stopped trying to become someone and started remembering who you already are beneath the conditioning? Could it be that you're not broken but just buried? We're told that happiness is a reward, not a birthright. That we need to earn our rest, our joy, our sense of worth. But that's the lie talking. You were born worthy. You were born whole. and everything you've been taught to chase is already inside you. The real journey isn't forward, it's inward. But how do you sell that? You can't. And that's why the lie survives. Because truth doesn't generate revenue. And here's where it gets truly wild. We don't just accept this system, we defend it. We glorify the grind. We celebrate busyness. We envy the curated lives of strangers. We internalize the lie so deeply that we become its most loyal disciples. We perpetuate it in our conversations, our parenting, our social media. We pass it on like an heirloom, believing we're preparing the next generation for success, when in fact, we're preparing them for the same invisible prison we've mistaken for freedom. So what's the way out? It starts with a single, rebellious act: enoughness. Radical, unapologetic enoughness. Not because you've achieved something, not because you've earned it, but because you exist, because you breathe, because you are. That kind of self-acceptance is a threat to everything the lie depends on. That kind of presence dismantles the economy of insecurity at its root. So here's your question. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to become someone else and started trusting the person you already are? The power of stillness, how slowing down destroys the lie and awakens the real you. We live in a world that fears stillness. Not just dislikes it, fears it. Because stillness is where the lie dies. It's in the quiet moments, the spaces between distractions, where your real self begins to stir. Not the curated self, not the performing self, but the part of you that was never broken, never lost, just buried under layers of noise, speed, and expectation. The silent lie thrives in motion, in momentum, in productivity for productivity's sake. But the moment you stop, truly stop, you begin to see it for what it is, a beautifully designed illusion. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stillness is not inactivity. It's not laziness. It's presence. It's the radical act of choosing awareness over autopilot. It's saying, before I rush toward the next thing, I want to understand why I'm rushing at all. And in that pause, the illusion begins to unravel. Because the truth is, most of what we chase, we don't even want. We want the feeling we think it will give us. We chase success to feel worthy. We chase attention to feel seen. We chase money to feel safe. But what if those feelings were already available to us without the chase? This is the paradox. The very peace we spend our lives pursuing is only accessible when we stop pursuing. When we sit in the discomfort of stillness and allow ourselves to feel what we've been outrunning, the anxiety, the emptiness, the longing, and the confusion. It's all there, waiting to be heard, but not to punish us, but to guide us. Because those emotions aren't flaws. They're signals. They're messages from the soul saying, hey, this isn't it. There's more to you than this. But listening takes courage, because the moment you slow down, the noise in your mind gets louder. The questions you've been avoiding rise to the surface. Who am I really? Why am I doing this? What if I'm not who I thought I was? These questions are terrifying under the fluorescent lights of modern life. But in stillness, they become sacred. They become doorways. When you begin to live from stillness, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop performing and start being. And that shift, tiny as it may seem, is revolutionary. Because it breaks the loop. It rewrites the script. It says, I no longer need to measure my worth by my output. I no longer need to prove my value through productivity. I no longer need to be seen to know I exist. Stillness returns you to the truth that you are not a machine. You are not a brand. You are not a project to be optimized. You are a human being, a mystery, a contradiction, a miracle. And that's enough. More than enough. So what does this look like in real life? It's in the small, quiet rebellions. Putting your phone down when everyone else is scrolling. Taking a walk without headphones. Saying no to the things that drain you, even if they earn you praise. Choosing depth over speed. Listening more than you speak. Creating not for likes or money, but for the sheer joy of expression. These are not just lifestyle choices, they're acts of liberation. Stillness is subversive. It threatens the system, because a still person cannot be manipulated. A still person cannot be sold an identity. A still person remembers who they are. And when you remember who you are, you become dangerous to the lie. You become immune to its seductions. You see through its disguises. You stop needing more because you realize you are already whole. So I leave you with one final question, the kind that lingers. The kind worth sitting with in silence. If everything around you went quiet, if the world stopped shouting what you should be, who would you finally hear speaking within you? And would you have the courage to listen?